Hello, lovely viewers. You are most welcome to our channel Poetry Online. In this video, we shall be discussing the detailed analysis of Ninth Reign by J.P. Clark. Kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get updates on all our new videos. Once again, let us assure you of a very interesting discussion. Get ready for this lesson. Ninth Reign depicts J.P. Clark's artistic creation as a poet. In this poem, the speaker, or the poetic persona, intensively and effectively employed a natural phenomenon to express his opinion, ideas, and experiences. The poem presents the immediate environment of the poet, thus, Niger Delta region of Nigeria, into his artistic creation by narrating his numerous unpleasant experiences during a night downpour in a simple, easy to decode language. J.P. Clark's Ninth Reign is a narrative poem which reflects on the consequences of nature on a group of people. Thus, the narrator, his parents, and brothers, and how they react to the forces of nature. The poet attempts to put across a very universal natural phenomenon, adapting a typical poor African household that is worried about the rainfall to mirror the people's poor standards of living, as well as how often they are controlled by the forces of nature. The word rain in the poem can be variously used and interpreted as rain of fortune, rain of misfortune, rain of poverty, rain of success, and the physical rain we all know. In this analysis, we will limit ourselves to the physical rain that we all know. One thing that is evident is that nature is a more powerful force and cannot be stopped by people or cannot be stopped by man. What this simply means is that, inasmuch as we cannot stop natural phenomena from happening, we can take bold steps to overcome them. In J.P. Clark's Ninth Reign, the poet presents courage and persistence of the victims of the poem, especially the narrator and his mother, and how they overcame their problems. The common application of the term Ninth Reign, as experienced by the narrator or the poetic persona, fundamentally depicts man and his environment with different challenges facing him within his ecological existence. It can therefore be understood that the problems of life can take any form, any shape, any size, and can take place at any time it so desires, as demonstrated by the poet's sudden rise from sleep at night to take quick steps to overcome the challenges before the challenges overcome them. Considering the diction of the poet, one can easily see, feel, and even taste the perpetual poverty which bedevils the narrator's household. The poem is set in a distinctive simple village in the Niger Delta. The home of the poetic speaker is a modest one in a traditional society where natural occurrences such as the cockcrow tells the time of the day. Again, the imagery of a riverside or seaside area or a mangrove or rainforest region is equally painted and depicted in the poem. Words such as water, fish, tree, owl, and bat clearly tells us that this is a rural settlement or a typical village. Therefore, we can say with all certainty that the setting of this poem is a typical village or a rural area or a rural settlement. The powerful imagery of this poem, coupled with the diction employed by the poet, makes the poem beautiful, artistic, understanding, interesting, and entertaining. The mental pictures in words such as dribbling, droning, deploying, doped, among others, helps readers to visualize or see in their mind's eye the intensity of the rain, as well as the negative consequences on man. Moreover, the images presented in words such as sheaves, shed, wooden bowls, earthenware, loosening mats, paints a vivid picture of the poetic persona's household and the abject poverty in which they live. One thing that is worth noting is that Nature is powerful, and natural occurrences are blind. As they are no respecter of persons, neither do they give consideration to anybody. Rainfall, thunderstorm, volcanic eruption, and earthquake just occur without any provision for man, who is always a victim of natural phenomena and who will always be at the receiving end of those calamities. It is evident that man's struggle and encounter with the wild forces of nature is practically inevitable, since the survival of man is entirely tied to his environment. To clearly paint the picture of the situation on ground, the narrator compares his experiences or situation to that of a fish caught with the aid of a chemical substance. Beside the effect of nature on man, the poem shows the ravaging poverty in the African continent, where people lack the basic necessities of life. There is no decent shelter for most people in the African continent. The victims of the actions of nature in the poem are wet even more than the birds which perch on a tree all throughout the rain. The poem systematically and logically draws our attention to the perceived inadequacies in the society in which we live in. Most African societies, especially the rural areas, have been cut off from the urban areas. This group of people are hungry for development, better living conditions, and science and technology. It is therefore appropriate to link the events of the poem to the deprivation, poverty, failed governance, corruption, repressive policies, and the indebtedness of the African continent to the pitiable and poor living conditions of most people in remote villages. The poet also hints on the need to prepare for emergencies. The situation of the victims in J.P. Clark's Ninth Reign would not have been so bad if they had made provision for the said reign. The diction, coupled with the tone of the poem, conveys a feeling of tenderness and sympathy to the readers as the victims react with an attitude of helpless resignation to the powerful forces of nature. The use of run-on lines in the poem indicates the continuity and progressiveness of poverty and deprivation in the African continent. Issues of abject poverty are not new topics in the African continent, yet this issue seems to be persistent. The use of the third-person narrative point of view makes this poem real, interesting, and believable to the readers. He exposed a fundamental social problem that bedevils the African continent and still dwells in Africa. The poem can be said to be divided into two parts. The first part of the poem talks about the hardships brought about by the rain, whilst the second part of the poem offers some kind of encouragement and hope that all will be fine in due time. Hence, the tone of the poem can be said to be both emotional and optimistic. The poem plunges us readers with the persona or the first-person speaker in the incessant rain falling on the roof of the poor family house. Each sheaves shelters at least one parent, the mother, and siblings of the speaker. Let's now take a detailed analysis of the lines contained in the poem. What time of night it is, I do not know, except that like some fish duped out of the deep. J.P. Clark begins his poem with a poetic persona's ignorance of the time. The time of the rainfall is unknown. What time of night it is, I do not know. This is an obvious indication that the poem has a setting in a village or a rural area where people do not have wristwatches or clocks to ascertain the time. The speaker goes on to tell us or describe his experiences during the rainfall. He compares himself to a fish duped out of the deep. This line reveals his discomfort. Dupe is a kind of narcotic or stimulant. However, in the context of this poem, it is only appropriate to refer to it as a kind of fish poison used for fishing. The speaker draws this powerful imagery to suggest that just as a poisoned fish is forced to die and freely flows on the river, the same happens as he is forced to wake up from his sleep as a result of the heavy rainfall. It is clear from all indication that the poetic persona was awakened immediately from his deep slumber by the heavy rains which has entered their poor house through the leaking roof. Here, the speaker tells us of how the family was rudely interrupted from their sleep by the heavy rain. I have bobbed our belly wise from streams of sleep, and no cock crow. It is drumming hard here, and I suppose everywhere. It is obvious that the poetic persona, or the speaker, is still sleepy as he tells us about what is happening. He is half awake. He moves on to tell us and describe to us that, unlike the usual way, which characterizes the manner in which they wake up every day, thus, every day, they usually wake up when the cock crows. Therefore, the cock crows to tell them to wake up from sleep or to inform them of the time of the day. However, in today's situation, there is a difference in their waking up. There is no cock crow, which characterizes their everyday style or manner of waking up. In the situation they find themselves today, there is no cock crow to tell them the time or wake them up from sleep. Yet, he and his family have been forced to wake up due to the incessant rainfall falling on the roof of the poor family house. To clearly show the sound and heaviness of the rain, our poetic speaker deliberately exaggerates the extent of the sound coming from the rain by saying that it is drumming here. Here, the speaker compares the sounds coming from the rain to the beats of a drum or to a drum beat. So one can clearly say that it is really raining heavily. And I suppose everywhere. This line clearly informs us of the impartiality of nature. Nature is no respecter of person. It doesn't rain on one roof alone, and it doesn't rain on one house alone. Whoever the rain sees, on him it rains. Hence, natural phenomenon gives no consideration to anyone. So the poetic persona is right to say that it is raining everywhere, for it can't be raining on their roof alone. Droning with insistent ardor upon our roof thatch and shed, and through sheaves slit open, to lightning and rafters, I cannot quite make out overhead. Great water drops are dribbling, falling like orange and mango fruits showered forth in the wind, or perhaps I should say so. Much like beads, I could in prayer tell them, unstrange as they break, in wooden bowls and earthenware. Here, our poetic speaker's attention moves from discussing the rain to showcase the kind of home they live in. They are portrayed as living inside a thatch house with leaking roofs, and since the roofs are leaking and the rain is heavy, the water from the rain finds its way into the rooms. The raindrops are so heavy that they are compared to oranges and mangoes. Since the roof is leaking and the rain is heavy, the family is left with no other option than to put up a defense mechanism. They put wooden bowls and earthenware at strategic positions in the room to collect the dripping water from the rain. This is an aspect of poverty as found in rural areas. Here, we can confidently say that the speaker is equally unsure of what is happening in these lines, except the sounds that come from the rain, reminding him of the sounds of orange and mango fruits on a windy day. He tells us that, falling like orange or mango, great water drops are dribbling. I cannot quite make out overhead. He is unsure of what is happening, just that he only knows of the heavy sounds coming from the rain. Mother is busy now deploying about our roomlets and floor. Although it is so dark, I know her practice steps as she moves her bins, bags, and vats out of the run of water, that like ants gain possession on the floor. Do not tremble then, but turn, brothers, turn upon your side of the loosening mat, to where the others lie. We have drunk tonight of a spell, deeper than the owls or bars. In these lines, the speaker draws our attention to the fact that there is darkness brought about by the absence of electricity. Even though the place is dark, the speaker's mother, who is equally awake, manages to move and maneuver her belongings to save positions. Some of the things she moves are bins, bags, and vats. She moves them out of the run of water. I know her practice steps tells us that this is not something new to them. This situation is something that has been going on for a long time. Another important thing worth noting is that, in spite of the troubles that a family is made to face, the children are encouraged to turn to the other side of the loosening mat, which has not been soaked by the rain. But turn, brothers, turn upon your side of the loosening mat. This is a sign of encouragement and resilience. It is worth noting that the children are not just sleeping on the ordinary mats we all know. Our poetic speaker qualified it with the word loosening. Turn upon your side of the loosening mat. This is to depict and heighten the abject poverty in which these people live in. Also, the children are not living in their own rooms, as most people will expect. They live in a roomlet with their mother, which further depicts and heightens their sorrow state. Notice the use of the word deploy. This is a military term, which means to spread out to take charge of strategic positions. The vivid images presented here is that of the persona's mother fighting off the invasion of the rain by moving things out of its way and placing other things as strategic positions to collect the water. The poet equally talks about some nocturnal animals such as owls and bats. These are animals that are considered a sign of a bad omen or misfortune in the African community. Therefore, we are drunk tonight of a spell deeper than the owls or bats. In these lines, the speaker recognizes the practice step of his mother as she moves her bins, bags, and vats out of the run of water. Here, the poet deliberately uses short monosyllables separated by commas to convey what the mother does in this situation, trying to combat the siege mounted by the water. Like ants on the floor, the persona recommends courage. Do not tremble. This line presents the speaker's mother and the effort she is doing to control the situation. We can clearly say that the speaker's mother is doing all within her abilities to control the situation. This line brings some kind of encouragement to the family that all will be fine in due time. That words of wings may fly, bedraggled up on the Iroquois, they stand emptied of hearts, and therefore will stare. No, not even at dawn, for then they must carry in to hide. As we said earlier, bats and owls are nocturnal birds of bad omen. They usually perch on high trees, such as the Iroquois tree. The poet uses the literal device hyperbole as a way of drawing our attention to the misery of the family, which implies that his household has been soaked by the rain more than the bats and owls that have been out in the tree all throughout the rain. The image of the wet owl, immobilized in the Iroquois tree, is near pathetic and leaves the readers with no other option than to sympathize with the family. So let us roll over our backs and again roll to the beat of drumming all over the land, and under its ample soothing hand, joined to that of the sea, we will settle to sleep of the innocent and free. After waking up and putting up measures to solve their problems, they can be said to even derive some pleasure from the soothing hand of the rain, and thus escape from the prison of the roomlet, suggested earlier, into the freedom offered by the regaining of the sleep they were enjoying before they were rudely interrupted by the heavy rain. The solution offered by the mother, coupled with the resilience of the children, is an advice from the poet to everyone that we should make the best out of whatever challenges we face in life. Here, the theme of innocence and experience is explored in the child's assumption that it is raining all over the land. Later, he discovers that the rainwater, joining that of the sea, can afford him and his brothers the sleep of the innocent and free. Do not sit down and do nothing about your situation. Get up and change your destiny. You can change it. You can make an impact. This is the message the poet tries to preach in his poem Ninth Rain. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share this video.